Did you know that in recent times, Europe has experienced scorching summer temperatures that soared above 46 degrees Celsius? Meanwhile, South Africa encountered unusual snowfall, with temperatures dropping to a frigid -10 degrees Celsius. These extreme weather events have some scientists suggesting we prepare for intense heatwaves, while others are forecasting the possibility of a new ice age, a significant cooling period that could last millions of years. Throughout Earth's 4.5 billion-year history, it has seen cyclical ice ages, which hints at the potential for another severe cold spell in the not-so-distant future. The big question is, could Earth be on the brink of freezing over once again? And what kind of concerns might this raise for humanity? Before we dive deeper into these questions, be sure to hit that subscribe button to show your support for this channel. You might be surprised to learn that Earth is currently in the early stages of an ice age. But don't worry, we're not in the full grip of it just yet. Right now, we're in a phase with relatively warmer average temperatures across the globe. This in-between phase is known as an interglacial period. However, this cozy period won't last forever. When it ends, we can expect a return to much colder conditions. Scientists are still trying to figure out exactly when this transition will happen. They're digging into the past, examining records from hundreds of millions of years ago, looking for clues about how our climate has changed over time. One thing they found is that Earth's first known ice age began around 2.4 billion years ago. During this time, our planet received about 15% less sunlight than it does today. This led to a super long period of freezing temperatures, lasting nearly 300 million years. The next big ice age, known as the Cryogenian, was even more extreme. It started around 720 million years ago. During this era, even at the equator, temperatures rarely climbed above a bone-chilling -20 degrees Celsius. In most parts of the world, temperatures were at or below -50 degrees Celsius. Scientists even think the Earth's oceans might have frozen solid all the way to the ocean floor. It's like Earth turned into a giant snowball when viewed from space. Another cold spell happened during the Paleozoic era, known as the Late Ordovician Silurian Ice Age, around 450 million years ago. This one lasted about 30 million years. It had some massive glaciers, as thick as 3 kilometers in some places, and they sometimes reached subtropical areas. The overall temperatures were just a bit cooler than what we have today. But the end of this milder ice age led to a really catastrophic event called the Late Devonian Extinction, or the Late Devonian Mass Extinction. It's one of the most massive extinction events in Earth's history. One theory is that as the Earth thawed, it set off a huge release of frozen methane from the ground, what they call a methane hydrate bomb. This methane release disrupted the environment and led to the extinction of 70% of land species and a shocking 96% of marine species. Right now, Earth is in an interglacial period within the Holocene epoch. So while we are currently in an ice age, it's not as frigid as it has been in the past. But these past ice ages have been pretty wild, and the history of our planet is filled with some incredible climate changes. The Earth has been in the current warm period, known as the Holocene epoch, for about 11,700 years. But before that, around 110,000 years ago, there was a severe ice age that lasted until about 9,600 years ago. After that icy phase, things warmed up, but there was another cold period called the Little Ice Age. This time, it was really chilly, lasting from the 14th to the 19th century. It was the coldest time in the last 2,000 years. During this period, the Gulf Stream slowed down, which brought some harsh winters to Europe. There were unusually cold spells that led to gardens freezing and crops getting ruined because of cold spring rains. By 1350 AD, the Great Famine hit, and it lasted for 2 decades. But then, by the late 19th century, the Earth started warming up, and it's been warming ever since. However, scientists have found that periods of intense ice ages come around approximately every 10,000 years. This means we might be due for another big cooling period soon. One reason for global cooling is the decrease in solar flare activity. When the sun gets less active, it sends less heat and light to Earth, making things cooler. A physicist named Robert Ehrlich made a computer model that showed a connection between these solar changes and ice ages on Earth. Another important factor is Earth's wobbly movements in space. An astronomical model by Serbian scientist Milutin Milankovic explains how these movements influence ice ages. There are cycles in the Earth's tilt and its orbit around the Sun. These cycles happen over really long times, like tens of thousands to millions of years. When Earth is farthest from the Sun and the Sun is not so active, the planet gets less heat. At the same time, the Earth tilts more, and all of this makes glaciers grow. Glaciers are like giant mirrors that bounce the Sun's rays back into space, which cools the planet even more. Now you might wonder, how could we be talking about another ice age when we're dealing with rising temperatures today? We've been melting glaciers and working hard to fight global warming. Well, it's important to know that we've released a lot of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. These gases have been sort of holding back the growth of glaciers, acting like a buffer. So while we're dealing with warming right now, the possibility of another ice age in the future is something scientists are looking into. The Earth has a history of big climate changes, and understanding those changes helps us prepare for whatever the future holds. Some scientists think that global warming might be leading us closer to global cooling. Here's how it works. When the Arctic Ocean gets warmer due to global warming, the ice melts. This water then evaporates and falls as snow in colder regions, like the subpolar areas. This leads to the formation of new glaciers. Now, scientists believe that as these glaciers grow, they might eventually block the warm Gulf Stream. This stream usually brings warm water from the Atlantic to the polar seas. If it gets blocked, the ice sheets could start growing really fast. And this brings us to the possibility of another ice age. If this happens, it's going to bring some big changes to our planet, kind of like what we saw during the last ice age over 10,000 years ago. When those ice sheets grow, they pull a lot of water out of the oceans. This makes sea levels drop, and many rivers can turn into huge valleys and lakes within the continents. It even creates land bridges that connect continents. Now, if the next ice age happens, it could cause some serious problems. For instance, temperatures around the equator could drop by about 10 degrees Celsius, and in the northern and southern latitudes, they might plunge to as low as -50 degrees Celsius. These super cold temperatures could be devastating for crops. It might lead to widespread famine, especially in places where it's hard to grow food. Also, lower sea levels would mean big changes in international borders. Scientists predict that ocean levels could drop by about 150 meters, which would join some land masses together. For example, Malaysia and most Indonesian islands could become one landmass. Sri Lanka would connect to India through a land bridge, and Ethiopia would merge with Yemen. So the world map would look quite different. Now, imagine what would happen in places like Florida and California, where it's usually warm and sunny. If they suddenly had the same cold climate as Alaska, it would be a huge shock. In this kind of situation, most grain crops wouldn't survive, and food supplies would run out fast. Now, the challenge is how to survive such a cold scenario. Some interesting ideas have come up. One is to add greenhouse gases like chlorofluorocarbons to the atmosphere to raise the temperature. These gases are more effective at trapping heat compared to carbon dioxide. Another idea is to use those huge glaciers as an energy source. When they start melting, they produce a lot of water. You could capture this falling water and use it to generate energy. Massive hydroelectric power plants could be set up next to these glaciers. They would have pipelines on top of the glaciers, and turbines would capture the energy from the water. This energy could then be used for farms near the base of the glacier. Finally, through genetic modification, we could create special crop varieties that can survive extreme cold. This would help farmers in ice-covered regions grow food. But here's the thing, we might not need to do all of this. It's possible that the next ice age won't be as extreme as we fear. Our atmosphere is currently loaded with greenhouse gases and particles that block the sun's rays and warm the atmosphere. So while it's icy on the inside, the Earth might still have a warmer outer layer, thanks to the atmosphere. In the end, the specific scenario of the next ice age remains a topic of ongoing investigation for scientists. But what's clear is that Earth has a history of cold and warm cycles. So it's possible that winter may be coming, and how we prepare for it will be crucial. What are your thoughts about the possibility of another ice age? Leave your opinions in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.